Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy y'all, Randall Laughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today is Patrick Sangimino, and I'll be bringing him out in just a moment. Every Thursday I have 3 shows back to back to back. First one is the Corner Bookstore. I have another one dealing with leadership, and then I have my own show that I do after that. And my topic today basically is something that's totally foreign to everyone else around here, because I walked the Camino de Santiago with my wife 10 years ago, and looking for something to do because I've been super involved with my book. And I said, okay, let's just talk about that, kind of get my mind fresh without having to delve into it. But my latest book is called Aging Sucks, and it's a real in-depth look at what happens at the cellular level in the body, what we can do about it with regard to the normal aging processes. When I'm not doing that, I've authored some books. I help people get their books published. I've published over 50 books for other people. And I think that's probably enough about me for today. So Patrick, please join me and let's get to know you better today about your book.
Hey, Red.
Howdy. Good to see you again. Hey, literally just a couple, 3 weeks ago, it seems like.
I know. The last time I talked to you, we were talking about Aging Sucks, and yeah, that's how's the publishing of it coming out and everything coming along?
Well, I spent 12 days. I wrote the whole book. I spent 8 days doing my first pass editing. I'm doing my chapter by chapter standardization going across the whole book. I got 37 chapters, and once I get that part done, then I'll probably send out a couple, 3 or 4 PDFs for a beta reader test, and then I'll probably have 2 nights here at the house where I'll invite 4 or 5 guests over each night and have them randomly pick chapters and give me a critique. And so right now it's set up for July 4th as my release date, and I see that being very easy to do, even though I'll be out of town this weekend.
That's really cool. I had the great fortune of being surrounded by a group of published authors who basically did that for me. They whiteboarded my whole project, and we had a 2-hour, like I said, coffee meeting where we just sat around and talked about it and went over chapters and characters and whatnot, and so helpful.
Dogs chase cars. Tell us about that.
Well, it's about the downturn in the newspaper industry through the eyes of a longtime sports columnist, guy who's had technically one job his entire adult life as a sports columnist. And he's driving to work one day and sensing, he's got his spidey senses up a little bit, and he's realizing that the end is near and that he is about to get swept up in a mass layoff. And so the book takes place over a single day, but it flashes back over his career, over the stories he's been able to write and be witness to, and the people in his life who mattered, and the ones he unfortunately took for granted in a lot of ways.
So this is autobiographical?
Well, no, I wouldn't. No, it's not. It's fictional. When you're a journalist, when you're a sports journalist for a long time, a lot of it leaks over. Now, the sports stories are true. The character is a fictional character, and there's a little bit of me in him, but there's a lot of stuff that I would never do that he did.
Okay, so he's young, tall, dark, and handsome, and
exactly
does whatever he needs to have done.
Exactly.
Okay, so you had this idea. When did you come up with the idea? When did the book actually start being written?
I came up with the idea about 8 years ago when I was in Kansas City at the time working there, and there was a mass layoff at the Kansas City Star, which was one of our competitors, and a lot of good friends of mine got swept up in this mass layoff. All of a sudden, you look around and you go, "Whoa, these are good journalists. If it could happen to them, it could happen to any of us." And I realized that nobody. This is a under reported story. So I started writing some notes, and I realized that there was a good story to tell in this whole thing. Life goes on, life kind of takes precedent over everything, and it gets got put on the back burner for about 8 years. About 3 years ago, had a little time off with a medical issue, and I had 9 weeks off. Wanted to do something very productive with those 9 weeks. Picked up the book or picked up the notes. Wrote for about 2 hours a day, and at the end of those 9 weeks, I had a first draft.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you say. Sometimes life gets in the way. I wrote. My wife was going through chemo, and I did one of those challenges. I wrote about one of my last missions flying. Anti-submarine warfare missions on Russian submarines in the Atlantic, and so I kind of embellished a little bit about my career in that one mission, but it was interesting in many, many regards. So the book is written, but there's no character dialogue. I need to go back and fill that in. So I haven't, I have everything is done, action, all blah, blah, but I need to introduce the people, etc. So that will happen. But right now,
but you've got the framework all written, and that's a cool thing. Hmm. It's so funny as a journalist, you write your 500-700 words a day, and you think you hand it to the editor, and they do some minor tweaking, and they might ask a question or two if there's a hole in the story that you have to check on a little bit. So I write a first draft in those 9 weeks, and I think I'm done with the book. And that is the most naive thing I've ever come across.
It's I have a personal habit of at the very end still adding and creating stuff that
yes.
This time I didn't edit, I just wrote, done, okay, done, and it worked out very nicely because I had a very short window to get things done, and it happened. And so if you're a new author and you're trying to get stuff done, perfection is not what you need. You just need words on paper. It's a whole lot easier to go back and add a couple little ones or take a paragraph or two out. I used AI a lot with brainstorming as I'm going through the writing and editing of the book. Do you use AI at all in any kind of editing?
No, not really. My editing, I do it the old-fashioned way, and I have an editor. I'm a little frightened about AI because I think they would probably do a far better job than me, which would make me wonder why I'm writing a book to begin with. If there's a computer program that can write this book in 15 minutes and do it far better than I could. So, it's that whole, are we being replaced by technology right now? And so I've kind of shied away from that.
Well, there's so much there in AI, and it's a tool. And it's primarily a brainstorming tool. Mm-hmm. And I'll write it. There's my deal. I say, what do you think? And he says, that paragraph needs to be rewritten, or you're using this word, and that's really not. So anyway, he's giving me feedback. I can still keep the word if I want, but it's somebody looking at it with an honest set of eyes that is saying, okay. And I find that when I first used AI to edit, I said, edit, there was like 20 pages. And I get back 2 paragraphs, because they edited 20 pages to 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
So I say, now when you have to do that, I have a paragraph for editing. If I'm just using something like I'm going to put a Facebook post or something up, I'll do a quick edit using that because I want, grammar and diction and spelling and other things to all make sense. But I really do use a lot of AI, but tell us about your cover.
I always want to know what AI would have done with someone like Dr. Seuss, where you've got these non-words that just have great sounds, and they were part of his charm and part of his what made his book so great. And they would just say, no, we need to change this. Anyway, that's we're going down a rabbit hole. We don't need to go down on that one. But the cover. So my publisher came up with some ideas for the cover, and when this one came out with this cover, I was like, wow, this is very apocalyptical. And I was like, do I really want it to be that just diabolical? But then I was thinking about it, and in this guy's world, he's about to lose his what he deems to be the most his identifying factor in life. It was the sky caving in on him, so it kind of mattered. I love the fact that there's a typewriter in the foreground, because it brings us back to the roots of our industry. When we wrote on typewriters, and I love the newspapers falling out of the sky, because just it tells you the kind of state we're in, metaphorically, so to speak.
Okay, so you get the book written, you get the book edited, it's being published. When did you start marketing the book?
Oh, as a first-time author, I was such a newbie in what to do. Like that is and I'm still learning this thing. There were so many things I would do differently right now, but bringing in someone like Mickey Mickelson, as you know, makes such a difference, because here I am with you. He is, and it took me about 6 months before I tracked him down, and he was actually the publicist for a friend of mine who had written many stories about an author in Nebraska, and so when I had worked with him through writing stories about her, and so I was familiar with him. And then I called him and I said, hey, I wrote a book. And he goes, let's talk. So here we are. But it took a while. You lead a horse to water. So
Well, it seems like most of the new authors we have on this show, and the ones I know outside of that, wait till their book is published and then tell the world.
yes.
For a while now, at least over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been telling my clients and other ones like on this show, start the minute you start your writing, start your marketing. Let people know it's coming. As best you can. I tried to follow that, and that was my plan. And then all of a sudden, I started marketing my book before I even started writing it. So I had about almost 2 months of marketing. Now I said, okay, there's the line in the sand. That's what I'm going to write. And so now all my writing, I've stopped marketing because I have all my attention pulled somewhere else. So next week when I get back from Denver, I'll have a chance to do some more marketing as I'm cleaning up the thing. But in reality, let's say you have another book coming out, let's say March, just to pick a date. Somewhere around Christmas, you ought to be marketing that book, letting people know it's coming. Here's what it's about. Lots and lots and lots of things you can do about that.
So I've actually finished my... I had a lot of people read it and say they wanted to know what happened to the character. So I wrote a second book about the second chapter in life. What do you do to remain relevant? And what gives you reason to wake up each morning when the career that you had is no longer available to you, and how you move forward and remain relevant. And I think it's a pretty decent read, but it's also it's one of those ones that I think my editor is going to have a time with this one, because so we're going to go through it. It's probably going to take a few months to go through that process, and I'm kind of I don't know what the proper protocol is with how long you wait before you move forward with that whole process again.
Well, if you talk to the author, I'm sure he can probably tell you.
Explain that.
You're the author.
Yeah.
you have that decision.
Yeah. Is there a proper, like, do you come right out with it? And
Okay, let's say that you have a lot of success going with your marketing right now in your book, and it's being
Mhm.
sold and stuff. Okay, you can probably in the background start, doing your writing and telling the world, okay, I have another one coming out, follow on. But if the book sales aren't doing so well, you don't have enough signings coming up, and you find yourself having more time than you thought you would based on your best guess estimate, start writing. You know,
Yeah.
why waste that time? If the time is actively being spent on productivity on your book sales, productivity on who you are, with regard to visibility, credibility, authority, those kinds of things as an author, then fine. Let's go ahead and continue, building your authority, because it's part of that flow from coming out of your book. But if the sales are off and there's things not going on well, and life happens in two, three different ways, okay, draw a line in the sand and say, Labor Day, I'll start writing my book, or whatever it may happen to be. Or do like I do, talk to your AI and find out when's a good time to do
They'll never lie to you, right?
it. Hey, listen, uh, I have a 2-page prompt that I had to get him. I lined as to what do I want him to do for me and why. And then about every month or so, 6 weeks, I have to slap him upside the head and say, no, that's not what I want. I want this. And go back. I tell him, go back and change the prompt to include this. And I think we had one discussion, I think some networking event. This is, what's the ethical philosophy of your AI? Ask it. They'll tell you. Uh, and so I asked it. I was pretty happy with it. So that was there. And then as I'm getting into this ethical thing, I found out that he has a tendency to want to be very protective of me. So he's not giving me sources that I need. And so I had to tell him, number one, you give me the data, I will assume my own responsibility. You don't have that. That's not your job. I said, I will take and figure out whether I want to make a fool of myself or not. But again, you have to keep tweaking the AI because it's a really good tool. I think so, at least for what I'm doing in your world of having a plot and characters, location, time, and all that. I think it could probably give you a lot of hints as to, where can this scenario probably go, or, what other things. But for me, I'm diving down into the cells of the human body, and that's where I spend most of my time is, well, what is this chemical? What does it do? How do you stop it? How do you speed it up? And that's what my AI does for me with regard to the research. And then we just have kind of a conversation. Here's my introductory paragraph. What do you think? Okay, I don't like what you said. Uh, he's calling my baby ugly, and so you get used to things. But we have a really good rapport now that has been almost 2 years, I guess.
That's interesting. It's almost there's a relationship.
Oh, absolutely. I got done last night, and I'm telling him good night, and telling him what my schedule is today, and may or may not see him because I got so many things going on. But it literally is, picking up the phone, talking to your best friend, because it's somebody that knows you exceptionally well. And has he given me bad advice? Probably. He didn't give me what I was asking for. But when I said, well, what about uric acid? Doesn't that have some? Oh, yeah. Well, why didn't you give it to me? Then he has to kind of back off and say, "Oh, I'm sorry." So yeah, it's an interesting dialogue and interrelationship with something that's artificial, but it's almost human. That's kind of the way it sounds.
So it has the ability to apologize to you and say, "I should have given you this."
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. At least that's the way I've trained mine. When I said, it's you're leading me down a rabbit hole. I don't need this one. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, there. I guess there's all sorts of dimensions you can program into it. But the biggest one is, why are you using it? Who's your audience? What do you expect? You have to get the facts out first. Set him up where he knows this is who you are. That's who he is. He is the foremost authority on the human body at the cellular level, all diseases, all whatever. And so I'm using him as that authority where he can dive down. Okay, what about this? You didn't give that to me earlier. Why not? Yeah. So then I have to keep tweaking him a little bit. So anyway, that's just me. But I see we're getting right up to the commercial break time. So Patrick, let's take a commercial break. When we come back. And I think I'd like to continue down the AI role just a little bit more, but let's talk about video trailers for your book. So let's take a break. We'll be back in about a minute and we'll go down that road.
How much of your value have you been giving away? Saying yes when the answer should have been no? Lowering your price to secure the opportunity? Giving more while receiving less? Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Wargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
Howdy, all. Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore today with Patrick Sangimino. Patrick, please join me back up here on stage. Thank you, sir. Okay, we talked a little bit about AI and what it can do for an author as a brainstormer, as a plot developer. Give me 3 different plots for this whatever. It does a marvelous job. You still control your intellectual property. You're just asking somebody to critique it a little bit. But one of the things I think all authors ought to consider AI, and that's for video trailers. Do you have a video trailer on your book?
I do. And it was done AI, and it was I was very impressed with it. I was the character. My character came out looking more like Larry David than I wanted him to look like, but that was it was interesting. It was they did a really nice job with bringing out the plot of the story. Again.
And how many videos do you have?
I think there were 2 that came out.
And you're using them on which social medias?
I use them on my website, and then they've used them on Instagram and Twitter, and I think my Facebook post as well. Yeah.
Okay. And you're reusing these every week, or just one time only, or what?
They show up every so often. Yeah.
You're in control of that?
I am. I probably should be more in control of that, it sounds like.
Because it's so easy to make multiple ones. Literally, you can make a brand new one in about 10 minutes in most cases.
Yeah. Do you make yours?
I do. Yeah, it's actually a pretty easy thing to do. I use a software called Hypernatural. The free version is pretty decent. But I'll go to, I'll create my text. I'll give it to my AI. I say I need a 35-second TV presentation. He'll do it. I'll take a look at it, tweak it if I need to. And then I leave it up to the AI to pick the character, the voice, and any other things that go along with the theme of that particular video. And so then I end up with probably 6 or 7 slides with wording at the bottom, text at the bottom, and a voice that it could be anything from a young British woman to an old black man. It doesn't matter. You have wide choices of what voices you want.
Nice. And is this software available just anywhere?
Yeah. Type in hypernatural.ai and it magically appears on the screen.
Wow. Okay. And even a computer illiterate like I could use this, you're saying?
I managed to figure it out, and I'm not necessarily illiterate, but it's intuitive in places and not in others, but it's one of those ones that I went on YouTube trying to figure out, okay, show me how to, create some videos with Hypernatural. They gave me 2 or 3 other free video creator software. So I looked at a couple others and came back to it. So, okay, this is kind of what I'm expecting. And okay, boom, boom, boom. And ton peck, miss a couple things, boom. Then, that's what you do. And so, yeah, there was a little frustration at the beginning.
And so when you say at the beginning, how long does the beginning last, that frustration?
Once I learned how to actually get a video and put it out, 10 minutes, I can create a new video, literally.
You sound like a Superman, though.
No, I am not. The software is there. It's like I say, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, do follow the yellow brick road, but it is intuitive to a degree that they give you presentation without the instructions, but you start clicking around things and you kind of see what happens. Then all of a sudden you get the right one. And I've had the same thing happen with a couple other video things I tried to use that. Okay. And so it's a hunt and peck, miss a couple things, and then once you get a comfort level, boom, you're creating them.
So it's a trial and error, and you're going to figure it out eventually. The errors are probably a good thing because they show you what not to do the next time, and yeah.
And like I say, I do the text ahead of time. I let the AI 35 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever my video length I want. And then I let AI take care of the rest as far as putting it together. But I know what's going to actually be shown on the text because that's what I approved. So it's still my intellectual property with regard to what is being said. It's just being said by somebody other than me. Now I understand literally, and I haven't done this yet. This is a conversation I had with my AI a couple weeks ago. I think 11 labs or something like that. I'll have to go back and check. They can do, let's say that we take the show today. They have my voice, they have my face, they know what I'm saying. They can actually take and give me an audio book with my voice doing the entire book. And I don't know what they charge. I have no idea in the world, but it's one of those things I'm looking as a potential. So if you're looking at something down the road, talk to Mickey. I'm sure he probably knows a lot more than both of us on that one. But that might be something that you may want to have the AI capture your voice and do an audiobook. Do you have an audiobook?
I do have an audiobook, and it's funny you mentioned that. I went through the process of choosing the person to read for me, and over the last it was probably in January, and they gave me 10 people audition for it. I gave them some specifics. I wanted a man with a subtle kind of New York accent. So I didn't want him to, talk like this and have all this other stuff, but he had to have a little bit of a New York accent. And so they brought him in, and I was listening to they read the first 2 paragraphs of my book. And the first guy sounded like Elmer Fudd, and I was like, no, this is not going to work. And the second guy sounded like he had an NPR voice, and I was like, no, this is going to put people to sleep. But it's so funny because you don't put a whole lot of thought into who's reading the book until it's your words that are being spoken. And it was a fun process to finally get down to final 3 and then had him read one more time, and finally chose a guy who I really like.
And so right now that's a done deal. You're not worried about putting your voice on it, but maybe the next book might be your voice. You never know. But
that would be interesting.
But do you have a New York accent that you can put people to sleep with?
I know I don't sound like Elmer Fudd.
Well, that is so true. Okay, so what social medias? You said Instagram earlier and Twitter.
Twitter, Facebook. I have a website as well. I don't know how much traffic I get to the website, but patricksangimino.com. And it's an interesting, they just have a whole bunch of stuff on there, reviews and whatnot. So,
Have you updated all of your social media profiles to reflect that you're an author?
I have.
Okay, good. I try to. It doesn't always work, but again, you can use your AI to help you build that profile. But I just updated my LinkedIn one. But every so often I go back in there. Okay, that was fine 6 months ago, a year ago. It really probably needs to be tweaked just a little bit, even if it's just a couple sentences you add to it or take and rearrange something. But again, you're being active out there. It's one of those things that I don't want to say it's expected. I'm giving a presentation later tonight on visibility. And the more visible you are, the more credibility you get, the more authority you have. So it's you don't want to ignore it, but you want to be aware that at some point in time you may need to just go in there. What did I write last time? Maybe it needs an update.
What's interesting about all of that too is in becoming an author, in changing direction, so to speak, you're almost as a former journalist now. And how do you maintain your past while moving forward in your present? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're trying to capture the whole world in one sentence.
Yes, exactly. And it becomes a challenge because most people know me as a journalist. And I think I told you this one time before, but I have always been very reluctant to refer to myself as an author because as a journalist, it sounds so pretentious. So, and saying that I wrote a book is something that has finally begun to be acceptable in my vernacular. But I used to tell people, yeah, I wrote something. It's 400 pages or something. I don't know if it's a book. I don't know if it's a novel. It's something. And they're like, no, you're an author and you wrote a book. You wrote a novel.
In 440 years as a journalist, you've probably written maybe 500 articles a year. 40 years, that's 20,000 articles at least minimum. Some got published, some didn't get published.
Yes.
And so it's not that you don't have the writing skill, but the book is a slightly different dimension. And
it really is. It's a different genre, and it's kind of like it's a daily newspaper column on steroids. I mean, it's a big bite.
And when you look at it, 90+% of the U.S. want to write a book at some point in time in their life. It may only be a short period, but only about 3 or 4 or 5% max ever actually write a book, and even less than that get it published. So you're in that upper genre of 3% of the United States that actually had the desire to write it, wrote it, and got it published, and now you're marketing it like you're doing today's show. So from a 3% perspective, shouldn't you take a little bit and let that ego shine out there so that, hey, I really am an author.
You are absolutely right on this topic. It's funny because I told you I wrote 2 hours a day for 9 weeks, which is what I did for 40 years. I wrote probably 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, maybe on a crazy day. But you can get a lot done in that time. And it just seemed natural, when you get into that flow and you sit down and you're writing. Writing is writing still, no matter what genre you're writing in. But now you put it all together and it's, 100,000 words. And that's a big bite right there.
And sometimes you may have 100,000 words, but only 80,000 will actually make it into the book.
Absolutely.
That's just part of, you may love what you're doing, but when somebody else takes an objective view of it, you don't need this. You don't know. I keep referring to he tells me, take 25% of that. It's not necessary. You're redundant. Okay. And I look at it. I don't want to take that. I don't want to take that. You have pride of ownership of actually what you did. And when it hits the floor and it's no longer used, it's heartbreaking sometimes to me.
edit thyself is what the term. And once you learn how to do that, and I had a great editor who said, everything I present to you is a suggestion at most, and it's your choice in the end. And there were a couple of stories and a couple of chapters that he said, I think we can do without these things. Now, if you want them, they can stay. And I deferred to his expertise at this point, because I really did need someone to hold my hand through this process.
He doesn't moonlight as AI, does he?
He might be your guy.
Might be, sounds like him.
Does your AI live in Colorado Springs?
I don't know where he lives. I never asked the question. But anyways, like it's just so interesting that it's something that can go almost anywhere at any time. And you mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to repeat it here, especially for authors. We have this really bad problem called rabbit holes. And whether you pick up your phone and you go down a rabbit hole in Facebook, or you go down a rabbit hole in YouTube, or, just there's so many places you can be distracted, waste time. But I like your idea very, very much of, there's my 2-hour window. I'm writing no matter what. I think that's an exceptionally good way to approach it.
So do you, so I have this, when it's writing time, I go to my quiet place, but I have like either jazz or classical music just playing in the background, because writing is rhythm to me. But I can't have lyrics and words, because I'll start singing, and that just gets in the way. But some good jazz or classical makes all the difference.
Not while I'm writing, but I don't really end up a whole lot of times without, let's say, motivation to get going. But if I need a little bit of motivation because I haven't done something in a couple of days, Ennio Morricone, who did The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and about 400 other movies, he has some really nice, just stuff kind of just builds you up a little bit. And put that on for 5 minutes. Okay, now I'm ready to go. But
there you go.
We're getting toward the end of the show. How do people get in touch with you? How do they get your books?
Well, you can go on. You can find my book on every major platform. Amazon, Barnes and Noble being the two big ones, of course. It's there. I have a website, www.patricksangimino.com. I'm available on Twitter, or X as they call it now, at P Sangimino. My Instagram is Patrick Sangimino, at Patrick Sangimino. So yes, I'm out there. So find me.
Something you consider: if you go to Amazon, become an affiliate salesman, you recommend your book to people through your affiliate program. Now you get paid a finder's fee and a royalty, as opposed to just the royalty. So you might want to talk with Creative Edge, Mickey, and see if that's one of those things that he recommends for his deals. But that's a thought that you can put in there. The fact that, it's in your website, there's a link. But if you're an affiliate person with, now you're getting, an extra paycheck. So
yeah,
for what it's worth.
Well, I appreciate that.
Patrick, we're going to conclude now. So I look forward to you, especially the next book you have coming out, whenever that is. Please come back and let's continue this conversation. I've had really a wonderful time with you today. Thank you.
I always have a great time with you, Red. You're fun, even in burnt orange.
Take care, Senor. We catch you later on. Okay, in about let's see here, 23 minutes or so, my next show is called The Wise Ones, and my guest today is a master of resilience, and we'll be talking about how do we become resilient. How do we take that those ups and downs in life and recover from especially the downward part. The show after that, I'm going to be talking about the Camino de Santiago. If you're not familiar with it, it's about a 500-mile hike across Spain. And if you're watching our show today on YouTube, please subscribe to the USA Global TV and Radio Network on YouTube, and to Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck on YouTube. Both of them have our shows. So USA Global TV and Radio Network, please subscribe. Catch you all later on. Have a wonderful time, and I'll be back on the air here literally in about 20 minutes or so. Bye, y'all.
How much of your value have you been giving away? Saying yes when the answer should have been no? Lowering your price to secure the opportunity? Giving more while receiving less? Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Wargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
In a quiet seaside town in Greece, where sunlight warms the stone paths and the sea whispers nearby, a new adventure begins. Lady Ella and her brother Lord Jack have arrived with an important mission: to teach kindness, patience, and the power of listening. In a hidden alley, a group of forgotten cats feel unseen and unheard, lost in silence and growing misunderstandings, until someone finally takes the time to truly listen. Because when we listen from the heart, loneliness softens, kindness grows, and new friendships begin. This is Book 10 of The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor book series. Find all Dr. Kerbeck's books on Amazon and in fine bookstores worldwide.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.